Nerd Fight regular season match. We've made it through the tournament. We've crowned a champion. I'm not going to spoil it because, unfortunately, we haven't gotten to that level of where everybody knows where everything's out right now. So it's going to be fun. Keep watching the tournament if you haven't seen it. But we're in the regular season. So we got Nicky versus Jay. We're excited to let them talk for a couple of seconds. First up, let's go over to Jay. He looks ready. Jay, are you excited for this Nerd Fights regular season?
Oh man, I'm always excited, bro. I love arguing. I love yelling at people, especially judges and my opponent. I didn't actually think that I would like Nicky, but we've been talking for like the last like half hour, 45 minutes. He actually seems like a really chill dude, so I might have to readjust the way I plan my attacks. But good luck to you, Nicky. This is one of the things that
Thanks,
I
dude.
like to do. And yeah, maybe you can actually accept my friend request.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
And
Dude.
we're over to
I'm
Nicky.
unaware.
Nicky, are you excited to be a part of Nerd Fights regular season, chasing after that belt?
Very excited. Yeah, I want that belt. I really need a belt. My pants have been falling down all day.
I love it. And of course, we have our panelists and judges. I'm going to just leave it on this screen right now as everybody can see their name. Let's go over to James first. James, how are you feeling about this match? Are you excited to be a part of one of the season openers for Nerd Fight regular season?
I know nothing. The only thing I can account on is Jay Burnz is a bitch, and I can't wait to fall asleep to his arguments.
All right.
Challenge. Can I get a new judge who's not biased?
Unfortunately, see, we have this thing of people not wanting to volunteer to be judges anymore, so we have to, just be like,
I'll be a
"Let's see
judge
who's gonna-"
when I'm not playing.
Then be better judges.
All right, let's go over to Jacob West. Jacob, how are you feeling, good sir? It's always a pleasure having you up on the table and being a judge. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's always good to be a part of this. I realize I'm on a higher level than Jay because Nick and I are already Facebook friends. So get on my level, Jay. But I'm really scared because I'm in between James and Matt on this call, and I know that there's some history between them. So I'm glad that I am dividing them.
Thank you for that, because we definitely don't need an After Dark episode happening tonight. Good thing they're not actually speaking, except for giving their judgments. So we're going to go over to Matt real quick. Matt, are you excited to be a part? You've been a part of pretty much Nerd Fight since the conception when it comes to, us building the tournament out, judging the tournament. Are you excited to see what some of these new combatants have to bring to the table? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I judged all the way through the tournament, missed a couple of episodes, what have you. But yeah, I know Jay personally. He's a buddy of mine. He is a hell of a talker and a shit talker. Nicky's kind of new to these leagues, but I'm sure
he froze up for a
quick. No, I'm.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get down to it. Just to let everybody know the rules real quick. If you haven't seen a Nerd Fight by now, I'm sure that we're going to wow you the entire match. But the match is split up into 4 main categories, going with a 1:30 opener, 5-minute debate round, and a minute closer. If you open the question, you close the question. You lead the closing argument for the question. So then we have the second rule, which is the extended minute, which is basically just used for your opening and closing. It adds an extra minute to your debate. You get 1 per match. And the last rule is the timeout rule. I haven't had to use this much. I had to use it in the championship match, so keep an eye out for that. And the timeout rule is I will say timeout if the competitors keep going on, or if I'm not in and we have a lead judge, they'll make the decision right then and there. If they keep over talking each other, I'll say timeout until we wrap the people up from talking. The clock continues. Once we wrap them up from talking, they get 20 seconds penalized. So the longer it takes them to stop, the more time is depleted from their debate round. So, and judges, as always, let's keep it to 20 to 30 seconds when giving the point. Let's start this thing. All right. We're going to go to Jay first for this first question. And the question is, outside of the 3 unforgivable curses, what would you not want to get hit with first? And Jay, you have 1:30 on the clock when you start talking.
I'll keep it simple. Outside of the 3 unforgivable curses, the one that I would not want to get hit with the most, if you think about it, and I will give you reasons as to why in my 5 minutes and in my closing, is the Reducto curse. It is an explosive curse. It is a curse that causes an explosion. Outside of Crucio, outside of Imperio, and outside of Avada Kedavra, that is the one that I would not want to get hit with the most in the world of Harry Potter.
All right, and you made it short and sweet for me, which I like. Going over to Nicky. Nicky, same question, 1:30 on the clock. What curse outside of the 3 unforgivable curses would you not want to get hit with?
So the one I chose is Sectum Sempra. Imagine your body being covered with 1,000 cuts, just gashes from a razor blade. The other day I got a paper cut and I cried for 2 hours. It's just one of those things that a flesh wound, a cut, a slice to your skin is horrendously painful. Imagine having your body covered with those from Sectum Sempra. One of those things being like just exploded. That is over in a moment, but being covered in cuts, you're bleeding, you're suffering. That is a miserable death, and I would much rather get exploded than to have a death by 1,000 cuts.
All right, keeping it short and sweet. We're taking this to the streets. You guys are nerds. 5 minutes on the clock. When one of you start talking, tell us which is worse, Sectum Sempra or Reducto.
Go ahead, Nicky.
Well, Sectum Sempra, like I said, your body's being covered with cuts. When was the last time you had a gash in your skin? Like when was the last time you
Yesterday.
had a cut, like from a razor blade, just on a finger? It's horrendously painful and bloody. It is not a good way to die. Now, imagine being blown up instantly. Just, it's over. You're done. You're gone. Life is over. Lights out. You're not going to have anything to feel at that point. But if somebody's hitting you with Sectum Sempra, they are going out for blood. They want you to suffer.
That's completely fine. Sectum Sempra has a counter spell to it. You can literally heal yourself with a single spell when you get hit with Sectum Sempra. You know what you can't do? Bring yourself back from being exploded.
You know what you can't do? Do a spell in time after somebody hits your carotid artery. You can't do a spell in time after somebody breaks your nerves in your wrist so you can't even grip your wand anymore. Sectum Sempra is covering your body with cuts. You're not going to be able to grip a wand. You can't do a reversal spell.
So here's the thing about that. And this goes into the lore of Harry Potter. You don't technically need a wand to cast spells. It is a focal point for spells to be cast. And spells don't need to be cast while talking. They could be nonverbal. And guess what? You can give yourself that treatment.
Yeah, but you're talking about the greatest wizards in the world. If I am in the world of Harry Potter, I am not the greatest wizard in the world. I do not want to be hit with Sectum Sempra to get cut. I'm not going to be able to respond to that. I do not respond well to pain at all. Like I said, there was a bee on my bike lock the other day, and I stood there for 10 minutes waiting for it to go away just because it wouldn't be stunned. I would much rather be blown up than cut to a million pieces. Even surviving that, I would rather be blown up. Please, blow me up now before hitting me with Sectum Sempra.
So that's the question is which one wouldn't you want to get hit with? I wouldn't want to get hit with the one that I couldn't survive. I can survive Sectum Sempra. When it comes right down to it, what curse wouldn't I want to get hit with? The one that can kill me outside of the one that's known for killing. I'm just saying.
Now, let me
Like-
ask you something. Have you ever held a wand before? Have you ever actually cast a spell before? What makes you think you would be so competent of a wizard that you're at the age you are right now and Hogwarts still hasn't recruited you? If you're in the wizarding world, you're not going to be a good enough wizard to come back from Sectum Sempra.
That's a hyperbolic statement. I don't appreciate that. You're putting your own machinations into it. I'm telling you right now, people have the ability to counter it. There is a counter to what it is that you're saying, regardless of whether or not I have the ability to do it. It can still be done. What you can't do is bring somebody back after they've been blown to ashes.
That's fine. That's completely fine with me. I wouldn't be able to do that. I know that. So I would not want to be hit with Sectum Sempra.
See, and the other part about it is most people don't know Sectum Sempra. You know why? Because two people know Sectum Sempra. The Half-Blood Prince and Harry fucking Potter. They're the only two people in the world who know it, because the Half-Blood Prince is the one who created the spell. He created the counter. He created that curse. He created the counter spell to it. And Harry Potter used it on his enemy in the bathroom. And guess what? His enemy didn't die because somebody was there to use the counter spell.
It doesn't matter about death.
It
It's
does,
about
though.
pain.
It's not about pain. It's not what's
It is
the
about pain. I
It's
don't
not-
want to
it's
feel
not about
pain.
pain. That's it, whether you want to feel pain or not. That's not the question. The question isn't what's the
The
most
question is
painful
what I
person
would
to
least
be
likely to
hit
be hit with, and I would least likely to be hit with Sectum Sempra because
No.
I don't want to feel pain.
You can
I would
survive
gladly be
Sectum Sempra.
exploded over getting a million cuts all over my body.
But that's just it. That's something that you can survive. Just because you want to be a whiny, don't take this personally. Just because you want to be a whiny little bitch and say I don't like pain doesn't mean that that's the one I want to get hit with. You know why? Because that's the one you can survive. You can't survive that explosion, dog. I'm
The
just
question
saying.
isn't what can you survive, it's what would you least like to be hit with. And actually, I do take
I
that
would-
personally. There's no reason to call me names.
Okay, fair enough. Take it personal. But at the exact same point in time, I'm telling you, the one that you don't want to get hit with is the one that you can't walk away from.
I'm perfectly fine not walking away. I just don't want a million cuts all over my body.
A million cuts that can be healed. There's 900 different ways to heal
That's
that in the
perfectly
wizarding
fine. It's
world.
still horrendously painful.
It's not worse than being exploded and not existing anymore.
In your
That's what I'm
opinion.
saying.
In your opinion.
In anybody's opinion.
Not
That's
anybody's opinion.
That's not even
I'd rather
hyperbolic.
not be Victor Zaz. I'd rather die than be Victor Zaz.
Time. All right. All right, guys. As I said before, we go over to Jay to open up his closing argument.
All right.
You have a minute on the clock when you start speaking.
All right. The question, as stated right here, Harry Potter, outside of the 3 unforgivable curses, would not want to get hit with, besides your horrible grammar.
Thanks.
Anytime, buddy. What I'm saying is I would much rather be hit with Sectum Sempra because it's something that you can walk away from. There are 9,000, like I said, there are 900 different ways that you can walk away from that. Whether it's Essence of Dittany, whether it's the counter spell, whether it's anything else that they have, a Reparo spell, mind you. The only thing that you can do is hope to be fast enough to dodge a fucking, or not an Expelliarmus, but like,
Oh, you forgot your spell.
oh, look, I'm not talking about the Reducto spell here. And shut the fuck up. This ain't your time to talk. I would much rather get hit with, I would much rather not be hit. It doesn't matter. I'm done.
All right.
I like Nicky's tactic.
All right, and we're going over to Nicky. Nicky, you have 50 seconds. You've been penalized 10 for talking when it's not your turn to talk. So go ahead and start when you're ready.
Yeah, well, I would much rather be exploded instantly than cut to a million pieces. Whether I live or die, it's irrelevant. I don't want to feel the pain of 1,000 cuts all over my body. Some people are masochists. Some people like that. I'm not one of those people. Please, blow me up before you do that. I'm done.
All right, and it finishes out. All right. So now nobody actually really talks during the judges talking. Just emphasizing that. Going over to James first. James, where do you see this bout, and a quick reason why?
I think it really just came down to the way these arguments were structured. It really comes down to a personal idea of if you want to die, if you want a very painful existence. And personally, I think a slow existence, or not slow, painful one is worse. So I have to agree with Nicky there. I don't know, just the instant death argument to me didn't really convey.
Okay. Going over to Jacob. Jacob, how are you feeling on this? And a brief reason why.
Yeah, I'm going the same way with Nicky. Jay kept pushing the whole, with Nicky's you don't always die. With his you do. But I mean, really, what's worse than dying in fire? It's living through fire. So I was gonna go with Nicky also.
All right. So with that being said, Nicky does get the point. And we're going to go over to question 2. And question 2 is best Shonen Jump anime. And Nicky, you're going to go ahead and start this question off. So you have 1:30 on the clock when you start talking.
Okay, best Shonen Jump anime. Now, this question is another one of those subjective questions is about how do you quantify best. So for me, I quantify best with profit, with money, dinero, moolah. That's terms that I understand. I'm a capitalist. I understand when something is a profitable product. Now, in the early 2000s, as an elementary school kid, there was nothing bigger than Yu-Gi-Oh! And there was nothing more that parents spent their money on for birthday parties than Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. And this is one of those things about Yu-Gi-Oh! That is different from any other show, any other anime out there. A lot of animes are pushing a product. A lot of animes are, in a way, a commercial for a product, a tie-in product that they're trying to sell with the show. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the only tie-in product where you can actually play the card game that they are playing on the show. It's not a representation of a Pokemon or a giant robot. It is the literal card game they are playing on the show. Now, like I said, you could quantify these terms in far of money. Over 25 billion Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards have been sold. And that was a statistic from a few years ago. That show, whether you learned about the card game first or learned about the show first, they both influenced the other one. I was introduced to the card first, and then I watched the show. But I'll get more into that in my next segment.
Perfect. You closed out right on 1:30. We're going to go over to Jay. Jay, 1:30 o'clock. Please explain to us what the best Shonen Jump anime is.
Okay. So the best Shonen Jump anime is Naruto, and I'm talking for character development. I'm talking for story arcs here. My opponent decided to go with the capitalistic venture on it. Not bad, but I guarantee you ask anime fans what's on their list. Naruto tops it. Yu-Gi-Oh! If they even remember it, bottom of the list. Naruto is one of those shows that really just engulfs you in its story. Yeah.
All right. Jay, are you conceding the rest of your time?
Yeah, buddy.
Okay, sweet. All right. So we're going to go over to a 5-minute debate, guys. Remember, keep it civil. Just try and make sure that you're not over-speaking each other as much as possible. I didn't penalize anybody last round, but people seem to get a little heated. Just make sure that you're giving each other enough time to speak. We got 5 minutes on the clock. So when one of you start talking, tell us why your pick for best shonen anime is the better pick.
All right. Now, I actually like that you mentioned that if you ask an anime fan which one that they would remember more, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Naruto. I actually agree with you with that. If you did ask an anime fan, they would probably tell you Naruto is the better one. I'm not asking an anime fan. I'm asking the general audience. I'm asking the global scale. Anime fans are a niche inside of a niche inside of a niche. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I love anime fans, and I'd really like to learn more about anime. What I'm trying to view is which one of these is more globally recognized as the best. And if you're looking at it through quantifiable terms like dollars and cents, whether you're watching the anime or the card game, they both are intertwined as one product, and that one product has sold a lot of money, has made a lot of money.
So is Pokemon. So are you saying that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a derivative of Pokemon, And which one of these anime has a day in Japan? Is there a Yu-Gi-Oh day in Japan? No, there's a Naruto day in Japan. You want to sit here and talk about, and we're getting outside of the topic here. You're bringing it into the real world. The question is, what is the best anime? Not what is the best anime related product. If that was the case, I might give it to you. I might have to concede that point, but this isn't what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is the best anime from the Shonen Jump manga to make it into an animated series. And at this point in time, Yu-Gi-Oh's not it. It's got 7 different types of show, and 6 of them are failures, and the other one is all filler. Naruto, while yes, it has some filler, has the best story, has some of the greatest characters, has some of the most memorable fight scenes in all of anime history. It's ranked. You can check 1,000 different YouTube channels from 1,000 different people with 1,000 different opinions, and guess what? Naruto still ranks higher than anything in Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't care about the heart of the cards. That's not something that I care about. What I care about is the story of this little kid who is looked on as just the pariah of his village, finally becoming accepted, and later on, spoilers, fulfilling what he says in the first episode, that he will become Hokage one day. You have this, whether it's over 700 episodes like Naruto is right now, it's like at like 698. You have this overarching story that never seems to lapse. Even with the filler episodes, there's always something to connect it. And to me, that makes a better anime.
Well, in your opinion, that makes it better anime. For me, I'm talking about when I watched Yu-Gi-Oh! I was an elementary school kid. I was collecting Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards and getting home from school, putting on Yu-Gi-Oh! Playing the card game with my friends while I'm watching the people on TV play the card game for the friends. That was awesome for me. You see these cards introduced on the show, and then you go, oh, I want that card. That's one of the things that you get from Yu-Gi-Oh! That you don't get from any other property. You can look and watch Star Wars and say, I want a lightsaber, but you can't actually hold a lightsaber in your hand. You could say, oh, I want a giant robot. You can't actually hold a giant robot. You can get the model of it. But the thing that
you can buy a lightsaber.
The best is that you can actually play with what they're playing with on the show.
But that's just it. To go back to your lightsaber analogy, you can buy one from Saberforge that you can actually use.
But it doesn't cut things with lasers.
It doesn't matter.
It does to me.
It can matter to you all
I actually want to be able to play the game that they're playing on the show. There's nothing on Naruto that I can do in the real world.
That's not true. Dude, it's about people who do martial arts. Are you gonna sit here and tell me that you can't do martial arts?
Yeah, but it's super-powered martial arts.
It doesn't matter whether it's super-powered martial arts or not. It's anime. Everything in it is exaggerated.
Okay,
when you
that's fine.
Yu-Gi-Oh,
what makes Yu-Gi-Oh the best for me is that I could play the card game that they were playing on the show. That meant a lot to me.
All right, I'm calling a timeout. Sorry. All right, 20 seconds on the clock. You're overlapping speeches. I understand it gets heated. I'm watching the clock as it goes. You got to understand it's got to be more than just over-talking each other. All right. In a total of 10 seconds, you'll be able to start again. You have 30 seconds on the clock once it's done, once it starts. And go.
What you have is a 2D proxy when you play with a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and you said absolutely nothing about what makes your anime the best. You have literally just sat here and said, I wanted to play this card game with my friends, but you've never actually touched anything about what makes your anime the best from a Shonen Jump adaptation to an animated series, and that's what the question is. I'm sorry.
Well, the question is, the way I interpreted it was, what is the best for me? And Yu-Gi-Oh is the best for me because I was able to play the game that they were playing on the TV.
Time. All right, guys. Going to the closing. You guys have a minute on the clock. We're going to go over to Nicky first. Nicky, close us out and tell us why Yu-Gi-Oh is the best Shonen Jump anime.
Okay, the reason Yu-Gi-Oh is the best Shonen Jump anime is because it's the most globally profitable. Now, you can tell me that Naruto has better plot, better characters, better dialogue. I'm not going to argue that with you. I think that all anime shows pretty much have equal level of dialogue, story, and plot. The thing that made Yu-Gi-Oh a difference to me was the tie-in product. The fact that you could buy the cards that they were playing on the show. That was something that was really cool to me and that I really liked as a kid. All these other shows didn't speak to me in that way. I just didn't get the connection with the shows and the characters that you did from that, but I did from Yu-Gi-Oh because of the card game.
All right, and you're conceding the rest of your time? All right, we're going over to Jay. Jay, a minute on the clock. Tell us why Naruto is the best anime from Shonen Jump.
I've already stated every reason as to why Naruto is the better animated series to get a series from a Shonen Jump manga, whereas my opponent didn't do any of that. He spent his entire time talking about a basic Pokemon proxy. And if you want to talk about better product, Pokemon is better, especially with all of the video games, all of the cards that they've sold. Naruto has better characters, they've got better story arcs, even their filler episodes are better. What you get with it is something that continued even outside of the shonen manga, and people are still talking about it to this day. People buy the headbands, people get Naruto tattoos. You know what they don't get? They don't get fucking Yu-Gi-Oh tattoos, and half of the cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh show you can't even use in tournaments anymore because they've all been banned because they're OP and cheating. So Naruto's better than Yu-Gi-Oh, hands down.
All right. Finish up 10 seconds beforehand. We went to James first. I'm going to Jacob this time. Jacob, how do you see this match going? And a quick reason why.
Yeah, both Nicky and Jay did a good job of selling me on something. Nicky sold me on a card game. Jay sold me on an anime. The question was, what's the best anime? Jay, I love how you brought up the fact that Naruto, you had all the headbands that everyone had growing up, because that was the one thing that was going to knock Nicky down with his only argument he had. But yeah, I'm going to have to go with Jay.
All right. Going over to Matt. Matt, how are you feeling on this? Give me a brief reason why and who you're giving the points to.
They both had pretty interesting, defenses. But the question is, what is the best Shonen Jump anime? Nicky basically had what was a more profitable IP. So Jay gets a point because he kind of answered the question.
And Jay does get the point. And we're going over to the next question. The next question is from Marvel, best Spider-Man C-rated villain. And we're going over to Mr. Jay Burnz first with a minute and 30 on the clock. Jay, whenever you're ready, tell us who the best Spider-Man C-rated villain is.
All right, so mine's a little bit of a shot in the dark, a little bit of I wouldn't say a long shot, especially in this villain's mind, but it is one of those more progressive, out-of-the-box type choices. My favorite, the best Spider-Man C-rated villain is J. Jonah Jameson, because he's not really a thorn in Spider-Man's side, and that's what C-list villains are. But he sees himself as this mastermind, this man who's going to take down the masked menace of Spider-Man. He is doing everything exactly. Thank you, James. I appreciate that you're not the only one who said that. I had a clarification question about it as well. Sorry. J. Jonah Jameson, not a thorn in Spider-Man's side, thinks he's his greatest villain ever and thinks he will be the person to bring him down. J. Jonah Jameson, best C-rate villain.
All right. You're giving the rest of your 30 seconds up. All right, cool. Going over to Nicky. Nicky, a minute and 30 on the clock. Best Spider-Man C-rated villain. Who you got to go up against J. Jonah Jameson?
Okay, so I want to start by saying that I really actually respect that answer. It's a really interesting take and a really good perspective on a villain for Spider-Man. I picked Tombstone, who is basically an albino thug, for lack of a better word. And he's bullied as a kid for being albino. That's what gets him to be into crime and wanting to beat people up. And he was in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and he hasn't done a lot in Marvel continuity big adaptations, but I think he's one of those villains that is flexible, that you can do a lot with, that has a good backstory, that has ties to Peter's job at the Daily Bugle, and that not only that, but with all these other character movies that we're possibly getting, Venom, Black Cat, Silver Sable, he may not be an A-list villain for Spider-Man. He's a C-list villain for Spider-Man, but he could be an A-list villain for Black Cat or Silver Sable in one of those movies. Another thing is, and I think that it's one of those things where I want to see more of Spider-Man taking on organized crime. And in the Spider-Man comics, Tombstone is very very heavily connected to organized crime in New York City. He works for Norman Osborn. He works for the Kingpin. He's usually working for other people, but he ends up being a good mob boss in his own right. So he can be a mob boss or a hitman.
Time.
Tombstone.
All right. I like both these answers. They're going to be interesting in the debate round. To answer James' question that he posed to us in the comment, I'll be fully flushed. What is a C-rated villain? A C-rated villain is someone that you don't necessarily think could ever take down the villain, but has probably done some really horrible things to the villain or the superhero at one point in time. Someone that usually people don't normally recognize as a villain to Spider-Man. That's kind of the brief overlay of that, as my shitty example goes. You guys have 5 minutes on the clock. Tell us why Tombstone is better than J. Jonah, and tell us why J. Jonah is better than Tombstone. 5 minutes on the clock. When do you start talking?
So I want to start by making a comparison just as far as like the C-rated villain goes and as far as like Tombstone goes. So imagine like Batman with Deathstroke. Deathstroke is sort of a C-list Batman villain, but he ends up being an A-list Arrow villain. So that's what I see in Tombstone, the potential in Tombstone. So with Spider-Man, he can beat the living hell out of Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's always going to beat him because he's smarter than him. But for a different person in the Marvel Universe, Tombstone could be a very heavy opponent to any of those other people than Spider-Man.
I get that, but that's not the question. The question is, what's the best C-rate villain for Spider-Man? Spider-Man can't beat J. Jonah Jameson. Spider-Man can beat Tombstone. Spider-Man's done it. He's done it in Into the Spider-Verse. He's done it in the animated series of Spider-Man. And guess what? He did it in the PS4 villain, where in the PS4 version of the game, where he was a boss. You know what he's never been able to do? Beat J. Jonah Jameson. J. Jonah Jameson came back with a fervor even after having a heart attack with a hard-on for bringing Spider-Man down. J. Jonah Jameson is the best C-ranked Spider-Man villain for the simple fact that, like our host said, he really can't do anything. He's trying to influence people, and people rally against him, but he's still out there every day doing it. And you said it yourself, he only works for other people. Nobody knows him as his own little crime boss outside of his little 6-person gang. He's not even, he's part of the Sinister 12, for Christ's sakes. I'm sorry. I'll let you go ahead.
Well, that's why I think he fits the bill of C-rated villain perfectly. And the question was, what's the best C-rated Spider-Man villain? Not the best villain to Spider-Man. So it is a Spider-Man villain, and no, he's never going to beat Spider-Man because simply he's not smart enough. But he's smart enough to beat other people. And that's what I think makes a good C-list villain. Somebody that can't necessarily beat the hero, but that can beat people around the hero. And he's not one of those hobgoblins, not one of those Norman Osborn. He's not. That's why he's a C-list villain, because he's not the first person you think of, because he hasn't done anything horrific in Peter's life. He's on the C-list.
He's beaten Spider-Man before. He's beaten Spider-Man to a pulp where Spider-Man might have bounced back, but you're saying that he can't beat him. He's done it, and he's done it to the point where he's made Peter Parker afraid to actually fight him because he doesn't have a counter to that. And in that case, that makes him a little bit better than a C-rank villain. You said he was better for everybody else around him. To tell you the truth, to me, that makes him seem like a B-list sort of villain. And to quote you, in our chat earlier, so nobody who's appeared in a movie, if that's the case, then Tombstone's already appeared in a movie. You said it yourself. He appeared in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Animated.
That it doesn't matter. It's a movie. That's just it. He's appeared in a movie. It doesn't matter whether it's animated, but he's been beat.
If I may, J. Jonah Jameson has appeared in several movies and is not even a C-list villain. You said that Spider-Man can't beat J. Jonah Jameson. Spider-Man has so much dirt on J. Jonah Jameson that he could take the Daily Bugle down at any given moment that he wants to. J. Jonah Jameson is a horrifically abusive employer, and yet Peter doesn't take him down because, frankly, he needs the job.
That's not true at all. And when it was leaked that J. Jonah Jameson was behind creating the Scorpion to bring Spider-Man down, and Peter Parker was the one who leaked it, guess what happened? Nothing. The Daily Bugle was fine, and J. Jonah Jameson continued to be the C-rank villain that he was. See, in J. Jonah Jameson's mind, he is the greatest villain to Spider-Man, but to Spider-Man, he's a fly caught in the web that he ain't really trying to deal with. Tombstone, actively tries to avoid because he knows Lonnie Lincoln can't feel pain. He don't want to fight him. And at that point in time, if you're afraid to fight a C-list villain, that really doesn't make him a C-list villain. It's either that doesn't make him a C-list villain or that's a terrible hero, and nobody's going to call Spider-Man a terrible hero. Oh, wait, there's one person who would call him a terrible hero, and that would be J. Jonah Jameson.
J. Jonah Jameson is calling Spider-Man a terrible hero because he's going against the tide. Everybody loves Spider-Man. So going against Spider-Man is going to get headlines. J. Jonah Jameson doesn't want to take Spider-Man down because, frankly, if he did, Spider-Man would not be able to save him time and time again. J. Jonah Jameson, deep down, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. He just wants headlines. He's not a villain.
If that's the case, then he wouldn't have created Scorpion. J. Jonah Jameson doesn't get enough credit. That's the thing. J. Jonah Jameson, great C-list villain who thinks himself
several
above
iterations
that.
of that character. Several iterations.
It doesn't matter.
Speaking of one.
I'm speaking of one, and you're only speaking of one as
Time.
well.
Time, guys. All right. Nice. And we're gonna go over to Jay to begin closing arguments. Tell us why J. Jonah Jameson is a better C-list villain than Tombstone is. Minute on the clock whenever you're ready, good sir.
J. Jonah Jameson has delusions of grandeur, just like some of the best C-list villains against any other superhero out there. He is nothing but a speck, a fly on the wall, or a fly caught in Spider-Man's web. He is a nuisance, but really can't do anything. When it comes to Tombstone, he's been beat by Tombstone. He's never once been beat by J. Jonah Jameson. I'll put it to you like this. When it comes right down to it, we're looking at it from two different sides. I respect your choice, Nicky. I don't think that Tombstone has enough because he's never really done his own thing. He's always working on the orders of somebody else, but you tried to build him up like he's this badass, and it really doesn't work. At least with J. Jonah Jameson, he runs his own, newspaper, and he tries, and he tries, and he tries, and it never works out. J. Jonah Jameson thinks himself above his station and tries to fuck with Spider-Man. That makes the C-list villain.
Time. All right. Going over to Nicky. Nicky, tell us why Tombstone is better as a C-list villain than J. Jonah Jameson. God damn it, Jay. You made me tongue-tie myself. You got a minute on the clock. Let me know when you're ready. Or when you start talking, you got a minute on the clock.
So first off, I'd just like to state that I think only one of us answered the question. Tombstone is a Spider-Man villain. J. Jonah Jameson is not a Spider-Man villain. If anything, he's a friend of Peter Parker. Now, secondly, if you look at the Excel spreadsheet of Spider-Man's rogue galleries, you're going to have 3 columns. You're going to have the Goblins. You're going to have the Punishers. You're not going to have Punisher. But you're going to have these 3 columns. Tombstone's going to be in the C column. And J. Jonah Jameson isn't going to be on there. So that's why I think that Tombstone actually is a C-list villain. He's not one of the first guys you think of. He's not one of the second guys you think of. And let's all be honest. Shocker, Mysterio, Vulture, those to me were always B-list Spider-Man villains that we were never going to see in a movie. And we're only seeing them now because they used all the other A-list ones. That's why I think Tombstone is on the C-list. J. Jonah Jameson is just a thorn in Spider-Man's side. And Spider-Man could take him down anytime he wanted to.
Time. All right.
Love that argument, bro. Love that argument.
Right. We're going to go over to Matt. Matt, where are you seeing this? Are you more aligned with J. Jonah Jameson or more aligned with Tombstone? Give me a brief reason why and who you're going with.
I think I'm going to go with Nicky just due to the fact that J. Jonah Jameson is trying to take down Spider-Man and some people follow him, some people don't. But Tombstone, like Jay said, has whooped Spider-Man's ass before. Yes, he's low on the totem pole. He's not, he works for other people. So that would make him kind of a C-list villain. So I kind of like the way Nicky went with it. So I'm going to go Nicky.
All right, James, where are you seeing this?
I think my first issue, it feels like a lot of Nicky's points was that Jay shouldn't have been in the conversation, but he was. So we can't, it was accepted by the judges, so it has to be considered. And with that being said, I think that Jay's argument was more compelling, that Jay Jonah works better as a villain on top of the fact that he's not as serious, so he deserves that C-list ranking more on top of being a better villain overall with the effect he has on Spider-Man's narrative. So I'm going with Jay.
All right, Jacob, you got the deciding factor here. Heavy lays the crown of the final decision making of you, good sir. Where are you seeing this match? What are you feeling on this one?
Yeah, I hate both Matt and James right now because I was really hoping that they would agree. Because this was tough. When I think of a C-list villain, it's a villain you don't think of. Nicky had a villain who you do not think of, but Jay painted a great picture of someone you don't think is a villain, but you read the comics, watch the movies, the video games. He is a villain. Yeah, I really hate that y'all did not agree. Dang it. I'm gonna have to go with Jay. Just Nicky, I felt you were leaning on semantics just too much. Yeah, the judges accepted the answer. You can't say that's not a good answer. You have to argue why yours. But y'all both did a great job. But Jay, I'm gonna give it to you.
All right. Whew. This has been one nail biter of a match. Regardless of who wins this match, guys, do not worry. You're both going to continue on in the roster. You've been nothing but gentlemen and scholars the few times that I've had to, tell you a few things. But we're going to go over to the next question. That is a Star Wars question. Who would be the best sidekick to have? And we're going to go ahead and start with Nicky. Nicky, you got 1:30 on the clock. Go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
All right, my pick is R2-D2. It's simple, right here. None of the characters in the Skywalker saga would be alive if it wasn't for R2-D2. Star Wars Episode 1, he saves Padme Amidala's ship when it's being shot at by the Trade Federation. Star Wars Episode 2, he saves Padme Amidala from being lavaed in that cup thing. Star Wars Episode 3, he lands the ship, he plays those battle droids on fire with the gasoline, and then he lights them on fire, operates the elevator so that they can get to Darth Sidious Emperor Palpatine. Star Wars Episode 4, he saves them from being the trash compactor. He's carrying the Death Star plans. Star Wars Episode 5, he's in there in the Dagobah system. He helps Luke get around, and then he saves them in Cloud City. Star Wars Episode 6, he throws the lightsaber to Luke. Star Wars Episode 7, he has the other half to the map of Luke Skywalker. Star Wars Episode 8, he finds the rebels on Crate.
We're going to go over to Jay right now.
Thank you, buddy.
Minute and 30 on the clock. We're going to go ahead and give you that 1:30. Who would be the best sidekick to have?
The best sidekick to have in Star Wars is not a main character, legitimately. So I went and deep dove and picked one of my favorite characters from like the Xbox games that nobody's really talked about, but need to be made into movies and need to be remade in HD remakes for the games. And it's one of the more, again, obscure picks, but I chose Canderous Ordo, the man who would become Mandalore and then eventually abdicate from that title. Canderous Ordo was a bounty hunter. I want somebody who is, if I'm in the Star Wars universe, I don't want somebody super high profile because I don't want Imperials. I don't want the First Order on my ass. I want somebody that I can cruise around a galaxy, collect a couple of bounties, get some stim packs from, have a good time with, and continue to live my life. If I get into a gunfight, it's one thing, but if I'm with a different character, and I'll save it a little bit for the argument round, I don't need a target painted on my back like that. So Canderous Ordo is my choice.
All right. I'm finishing before 1:30. I love it. You guys know how this rolls by now. 5 minutes on the clock. When one of you start talking, just to give a heads up, you both still have that extra minute if you decide to use it in your closing. But 5 minute debate whenever you're ready. Whoever starts talking first.
I don't want a depressed robot as my friend. You say that he saved their lives in episode 7. He didn't do shit in episode 7. Granted, it's only one portion of that, and I will give that to you. He didn't do a damn thing there. And he's got plot armor out the ass. You know who doesn't have plot armor? Canderous Ordo. I'm just saying. And when it comes right down to it, again, I would much rather fly low key through space, getting into all sorts of like scoundrel-esque, debacles and situations than have a giant target painted on my back by the rebellion or by the First Order, because you're never going to be able to have fun. All you're going to be in is action sequences, and that's not everything that encompasses an adventure in Star Wars.
Okay, so I didn't say that R2 saved them in episode 7. What I said is he had the other half of the map to Luke Skywalker in episode 7. He saved them in movies past. He saved them at other times. Countless times in the Clone Wars that I didn't even mention. He saved Mace Windu after Boba Fett tried to kill him. Anakin was without him for a string of episodes, and he wasn't able to fly right. Granted, there was another droid sabotaging him, but without R2, he wasn't able to operate as he normally would. R2 is the guy that's going to be able to save your life when your enemies aren't expecting him to.
Unless he's compromised, like he was in Clone Wars. Unless you can't speak the binary code language of droids, you can't do that. I can speak in basic to Canderous. Can you talk to R2-D2? I don't think you can, because you don't understand beeps, bloops, and whistles. I can legitimately have a conversation with my person. I can go ahead and handle a disagreement. I can handle an argument with this individual. Whereas you kind of just got to guess. You're playing a game of charades with literally a trash can.
Okay, well, first off, I will say, no, I probably wouldn't be able to understand R2-D2, but more importantly, he would be able to understand me, which is what is important, because he's the one that's going to be saving my life. He's my sidekick. The sidekick is the character that saves the hero when nobody else will. Canderous Ordo, as good as he is, I'm going to go to the source material. I really like that character, but in Knights of the Old Republic, both of those games, I never played with Canderous unless I had to, because I always wanted to go out with Jedi. I don't even think that he's the best sidekick on the game. R2-D2 is the best sidekick in all of Star Wars that people recognize as Star Wars. I'm not disclaiming your answer. Knights of the Old Republic is some of the best source material in Star Wars, but I just don't think Canderous is even the best sidekick in that game.
Look, he's better than Carthonasi. He's better than Mission Veo. He's better than Zalbar. I will tell you this right now. You always need somebody who's ranged to have your back. And what do you have with R2 besides the rocket boosters, besides the little stun stick? You don't really have anything. At least with Canderous Ordo, you could be up front if you're a Jedi. If I was lucky enough in the Star Wars universe to be a Jedi, I would much rather have somebody covering my back like that, who I can have a conversation with or have an argument with in the heat of battle, instead of somebody who's just this mindless little drone that takes my orders that I can't even have a conversation with. In the dark of space, that's going to get incredibly boring to me. I respect the fact that you chose R2-D2. He crossed my mind. He's a little bit too much of a main character for me, especially throughout 8 movies. Whereas, yes, with Canderous, you don't have a whole lot of time, but when you do have it, he's always got your back. He's always there with stim packs. He's always there with med packs. He's always there to give you a glib comment, and that's kind of what you look for in a sidekick. Somebody who is, yes, there and will have your back, but is also able to quip with you while you're doing this. Look at any TV show that has a sidekick in it ever.
Are you telling me that R2-D2 can't quip? R2-D2 is the biggest potty mouth in Star Wars. He says some of the most obscure things, some of the most like scandalous things that they can't even say it and translate it on screen. All you have is people's reactions to it. You
literally just said you couldn't understand him. How do you know that?
Because of Luke Skywalker's reaction.
Okay, but you're not Luke Skywalker.
I'm not, but I see Luke Skywalker.
But you can see Luke Skywalker all you want, but you're in this universe. This is your sidekick, and you said that you couldn't understand your sidekick.
He understands me, and after a while, we will develop a communication, just like Anakin did, just like Luke did. Luke didn't know what R2-D2 was saying. Nobody knows what their droid is saying when they first get it. Just look at your source material. Knights of the Old Republic. There's a droid in there, T3M4, and Revan cannot understand what he is saying, but
okay,
I will
counter exactly what you just said. That is untrue, because the first thing that you see R2 in, Luke is having a conversation with him, which means that Luke can understand him. There is a bond that's built over time, yes, but that doesn't mean that Luke can't understand him at that point in time. You're putting yourself into that situation, and you said it yourself. You cannot understand this individual.
R2D2 is going to save my life. He's going to throw me my lightsaber when I need it.
Time. All right. We're going to closing. Nicky, you're going to go ahead and start us out because you opened us up. Nicky, tell us why R2D2 is better than Jay's character, because I don't remember.
Kender Sordo.
Kender Sordo. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey,
Kender.
Thank you.
All right.
So we got a minute on the clock whenever you're ready.
Okay, Kender Sordo, great character, great Mandalore, that from a great game. But like I said, I don't even think he's the best sidekick in that game, because when I played that game, I just filled it with Jedi so I could force lightning everybody. R2D2 is the best sidekick in all of Star Wars, and the one that I would most likely have by my side. He can jump into a ship with an R2 unit hinge in it and pilot the ship for him, like he did in the Clone Wars. He jumped into one of those Jedi starfighters and he saved Anakin and Mace Windu's life. He throws Luke his lightsaber when he needs it in Jabba's palace, on Jabba's sail barge. He infiltrates Jabba's palace. He has the map to Luke Skywalker. He has the plan to the Death Star. And I'd like to use my extra minute.
You needed to say that beforehand.
Oh,
I told you needed, yeah.
Okay.
I told you needed to say that beforehand.
Well, that's fine. R2D2 is the best sidekick in Star Wars, hands down. He's going to save your life when your enemies aren't expecting it.
All right. Sorry about that, Nick. Yeah, I said that beforehand, that you needed to say that beforehand. All right, going over to Jay. Jay, you got a minute on the clock. Tell us why your character is better than R2D2.
Again, Kender Sordo can speak basic. I would much rather have a conversation with somebody who will make their own choices and still choose to help me, instead of somebody who is literally there to just listen to what I say like a slave. We had L337 literally start a robot uprising because of this reason itself. You never get R2's perspective on it. You can't understand R2. You said it yourself. So I would, like I said, I would much rather have somebody that I can have a conversation with, especially when it comes to like the downtime that you're going to get. Because what's the use if you're just going to be like, hey, do this for me, do that for me, do that for me, do this, save my ass? Is that really a sidekick, or is that really just like something that you hold in your pocket and you're like, okay, do this now and save my ass? I would much rather have somebody who's like, I think I'll make you sweat and then come through. And regardless of whether you want to roll with a group of Jedi or not, you always need somebody to have your back, and that's exactly who Canderous Order would be, and that's exactly who he was in the games. That's why Canderous Order was my pick.
Time. Perfect. All right, we're going back to James. James, make some sense of this for me. Who are you feeling? Who's the better sidekick, or R2D2 or candidate? Yep, I'm murdering already.
Kender Sordo.
There you go. I'm gonna point to Nicky and Jay when I'm asking for the name right there, because I'm a shitty person. So going over to James. James, where are you seeing this? How are you feeling?
As the person most knowledgeable about Quesadilla Orson Welles, I think Nicky easily won it in opening arguments. He simply listed, like, here's what R2 has done, and here's what R2 can do for you. Over his, 100-year journey, he's done a lot of good shit. Maybe it's because the familiarity with the video games and the open narrative of it doesn't allow for as much. I think the actual proof of what R2 can do makes him a better partner.
All right, going over to Jacob. Jacob, I seen you burping or rubbing the baby's back. How's she doing? And then tell us about how this match is going in your eyes.
Yeah, she's doing good. She's going to bed. So that's the joys of being a dad, everyone. So don't do it until you're ready. That's your birth control for the night. But yeah, this was another great one. There were both some really good arguments going. A lot of rebuttal. I just love the fact that we're ignoring R2D2 got rocket boosters out of nowhere in episode 2. How the crap does that happen? Yeah. Come on, guys.
Okay, so quickly, how that happens is he had them before episode 4, and they disabled them, guys. Okay, going back.
Why did he use it in episode 1?
Didn't feel like it.
They came out of nowhere.
Robots, they're stupid.
Anyways, personal matters aside, I think Jay's biggest argument against R2D2 is the fact that he's a main character, because he's in almost every movie. But but Nicky still did a good job of, while he's in every movie, he's still a sidekick. He's not major in all of them. And R2D2 would be the better sidekick, so I'm gonna have to go with Nicky also.
All right, guys. So we're about to go into the speed round, and the speed round has officially became something different. If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. Sorry. I'll never please everybody.
Suck an R2D2.
Suck an R2D2. We'll call it that. All right. So the speed round is going to be a little bit different when we're choosing questions from now on. But the speed round, as always, is going to be 45-second opener. You can do whatever you want with the opening time, or do whatever if you want to choose to crush your opponent or try to do that. Do what you got to. But you have 45 seconds, you have 30 seconds, and you have 20 seconds. Those are the rounds. And they go quick, guys. For the questions, I'm going to go over the list right now, and we'll go to the spin. Hold on 1 second. I just want to do this. All right. We're going over to the questions real quick. You'll see the question. DC. Who is the most deadly hero without any upgrades or powers? Anime. Who is the best Hokage of Naruto? Doctor Who. Who is the best doctor? Monster Mash. Who is the deadliest monster to grace the movie screens? And in Star Wars, who is the best scoundrel? All right, I'm going to go ahead and prime the reel real quick. Spin it real fast. So how this is going to work is we'll say the question, we'll spin the question, I'll say the question. Whoever gives me their answer first will go first. All right, everybody ready? All right, let's kick it. And the question is from Star Wars. Who is the best scoundrel?
Lando Calrissian.
Han Solo.
All right.
Oh.
Whew. Okay, this is going to be a battle. Jay's got Lando, and Nicky's got Han. All right, we're going to go ahead and remove that. Guys, you guys have 45 seconds on the clock. We're going to go over to Jay first. Jay, 45 seconds on the clock. Like I said, when you start talking.
Lando Calrissian has swindled, been a scoundrel, who could be considered one of the greatest scoundrels of all time. But if you can scam the greatest scoundrel of all time, does that not necessarily make you the greatest scoundrel of all time? He swindled Han fucking Solo. So Lando Calrissian comes through badass, saves them all at the end of Return, wearing Han Solo's clothes, driving his ship, being the baddest pimp in the entire galaxy. You know what Han Solo did? Recovered from carbonite blindness and got frozen like a block for a movie and a half. Han Solo is a dirtbag.
All right, closing the 45 seconds out early. We're going over to Nicky. Nicky, 45 seconds on the clock. Tell us why Han Solo is better than Lando. Let's go. When you start talking.
So you're right about two things. One, Lando Calrissian is definitely a pimp, and Han Solo is definitely a dirtbag or scumbag, whatever you said. I can't remember, but that's the point. Lando Calrissian is a pimp. He's a playa. Han Solo is a scoundrel. I never heard the word scoundrel in my life before watching Star Wars. And now every time somebody uses the word scoundrel, all I can think about is Han Solo. And yes, Lando did swindle Han, but then Han turned right around and swindled him back. You know why? Because he's a scoundrel.
All right. This speed round's, I guess, going to go super fast. You guys, 30 seconds on the clock. Jay, tell us Lando over Han. Why is Lando better?
My opponent said it best. Lando Calrissian, he agreed with me, swindled the best scoundrel in the galaxy. You want to call him a pimp? That's cool. Guess what? Han Solo decided that he was going to chase after some pussy instead of continuing his smuggler/scoundrelous ways. So, you know who didn't do that outside of one time, but still continued to be that scoundrelous type of individual? Lando Calrissian. He's cool as the other side of the pillow. Drinks an ice cold Colt 45, baby.
Time. Going over to Nicky. Nicky, 30 seconds on the clock when you start talking.
So when Lando Calrissian swindled Han Solo was not the greatest scoundrel of all time. I will give you that. But it's who's the greatest scoundrel of all time? Who is the best scoundrel? It is Han Solo, because We know his entire story. He is a scoundrel through and through. He settled down with Leia. He had Ben, and then right after that, he went back to being a scoundrel. Lando, we don't know what his end story is. He could have settled down, had kids. Han Solo is a scoundrel. He is the scoundrel.
Time. All right, we're going to the last 20 seconds, guys. Make it count. This is the final. We've been to the speed round like once before. I'm super excited. Let's see where we're going. 20 seconds on the clock when you start talking, Jay.
Han didn't go back to being a scoundrel. Han went back to look for the Millennium Falcon. He might have tried to smuggle some shit, but guess what? He didn't. Guess what you do have with Lando Calrissian, an individual who continued his smuggling empire to become one of the best smugglers of all time. And a smuggler is a scoundrel. He's still scoundrel. He still swindled Han Solo, the quote-unquote best. If you're better than the best, you're the best.
Time. All right. 20 seconds on the clock, Nikki, when you start talking.
So we don't know what happened to Lando after episode 6. We have a little bit of the Star Wars video games to fill that in, a few comics, but between the biggest gap there, we don't know what Lando did. He could have settled down, had a family. Han Solo, yeah, he went back to the only thing he knew, which was being a scoundrel. He was smuggling Rathars, for God's sake. Those are space monsters. Han Solo is the scoundrel. Scoundrel in the dictionary, Han Solo.
Time. All right, guys, this is the speed round. This is where everything comes in. Everybody's argument is super concise, or tries to be. We're going to go over to Jacob, since you did not start last time. Jacob, where are you seeing this? Is it Lando? Is it Han? Where are you looking?
Well, I agree with Nikki a lot. I, too, never heard the word scoundrel until watching Star Wars. That's probably because I was 5 when I watched Star Wars for the first time and wasn't around a lot of bad language growing up. So that's why. But Jay almost had the knockout whenever he started bringing up outside of the movies. But Nikki really saved himself on his closing, saying that we don't know a ton about Lando. But Han went back to everything, even though he didn't have the Falcon. He was still smuggling, still being a scoundrel. This was another close one, another great one. I'm going to give the slight edge to Nikki, though.
All right, going over to Matt. Matt, where are you looking at?
Oh. There's one quote that keeps running through my head. If you're quote unquote the best and you get swindled by somebody else, that makes you the best. So I'm gonna go Lando, just by the narrowest of margins.
All right, we're down to that neck and neck breaking. James, Lando, Han, who is the better scoundrel?
Fuck. I think Matt got right on the nose. It really comes down to who's the better swindler. One swindled the other. My vote goes to Jay for Lando.
This was an intense match. It went down to the speed round, guys, and you know what that means. And your winner, Jay Burnz. Jay, we're gonna go over to you first, real quick, good sir. How are you feeling? This was a tough fought match. You went all the way to the speed round. How are you feeling?
You know what, Nikki? I had kind of expected you to throw out Han Solo before I said anything. That's why I went with Lando, and I'm just really kind of glad. It's to quote Cody Newberry, it's 50% knowledge, it's 50% bullshit. You had me on some of those. If I was watching the match and being a judge, you probably would have gotten a majority of my points on certain things. Nicky walked in here, he wanted to win. He obviously showed that he wanted to win, and I would love to play Nicky again because he's got that kind of out of the box style. He doesn't have this really standard style that everybody seems to have when it comes to arguing. And there's not a lot of people in leagues like this who can argue in almost the exact same way that I can. So it was really weird. It was kind of like shadow boxing. It was kind of almost like boxing myself or playing myself in a match. And I really appreciated that. Nicky brought the heat. Dude, we're going to talk off screen. We're going to talk off stream as well. Because this was a fantastic fight. This is, I think, the hardest I've ever actually worked to get a win. and I'm glad I walked away with it. I think the judges are high on certain things, and I'll talk to y'all and I'll bitch to y'all about that. Off stream is no, I'm kidding. The judges did fantastic. Thank you to the host, Nicky. I appreciate you showing out, dude. I know it's late for you, man, but I appreciate it.
All right, and going over to the unfortunate second placer today, Nicky, you did a fantastic showing for your first time out. I don't want you to keep your head down. You will be back. I will make sure of it because you are one hell of a debater. Some would say a master debater. Sorry for my corny puns. But how are you feeling? I know that you wanted this win really bad, but how are you feeling?
Confused, honestly. I feel like he made my argument for me with the Han Solo thing. If you beat the best, you are then the best. When Lando Calrissian shows up in Solo: A Star Wars Story, he is the best. And then Han Solo beats him at the end of the movie. So I'm just confused where Lando...
I feel you there, sir, but that's... Unfortunately, we have 3 judges, and that's the reason that we have 3 judges. So
No, I understand. I just don't understand their logic. It's just...
So the question on the table is: will you plan on coming back? Will you still?
Oh, absolutely.
Chasing
fun.
that title. All right, awesome. And of course, like I said, you don't want to keep your head down because you were
my head's
fantastic
up. I did great.
Good. I'm glad that your head's up, and I'm glad that you'll be back. Certainly get these more or less organized as best as I can. We're gonna go over to James real quick. James, how are you feeling? How do you feel the match went?
I mean, fuck Jay, but I did expect him to win here. He is one of the biggest personalities, biggest talents in any league. So the fact that he can run his mouth the best does make sense.
All right, going over to Jacob. How are you feeling?
Man, that was great. And Jay, you can complain to me all you want. I have kids. It's gonna go in one ear, out the other. These were 2 great people. Jay said it perfectly that it was shadowboxing. So I think this confirms that Jay is actually Nicky's dad. Come on, families, let's get this going.
All right, going over.
Don't disrespect Nicky like that.
Going over to Matt. Matt, how are you feeling? How do you see the match go and everything like that? I got thrown off by...
Holy shit! I've seen Jay compete. You know, Jay's one of my buddies. I know he can bullshit his way through anything. Nicky, what a hell of an opening! I have to tell you, when I gave points to him, it was by the narrowest margins. I love this. This was a great fight. James, your mama as always. I will meet you again, and we will debate again.
When the After Dark comes. And when the After Dark comes.
Hey, you too.
Then we can debate. Hashtag After Dark.
Stop.
All right, I'm about to put all of you in back room and the green room. Y'all are being bad children.
I will turn this stream around.
All right, guys. As always, it's been a great show. And as always, from James, from Jacob, from Matt, from Nicky, from the arsonist himself, Jay Burnz, and myself, Doug. It's been a hell of a match. And nerds,